So let's see here. Just kind of show you some of the specs on this particular machine real quick. System. Alright, so what do we have here? We have an Asus Tech computer. It's got an Intel Pentium quad-core CPU, and it's running at 2.16 gigs. Not exactly blistering speed, but capable. It came with 8 gigs of RAM, which will come in real handy later on in this video, as I'll explain. It has the touch support on the screen and all that good stuff, yada yada. So, I need to do productive things with my computer now and then, and at least right now, the most practical way to get some of them done, most of them done, is to use Windows. So, I have my Microsoft Office 365, which you cannot install on Linux because it is a subscription service. I also put all my Adobe apps over here. I have the Adobe Creative Cloud, another subscription service. No way you're going to install that on Linux. So I've got all those here to be productive with proprietary software. LibreOffice is nice, but it just doesn't have, it's not going to have the features or Microsoft Word has. And I'll show an example, one simple example right here. I earned my college degrees online, both a bachelor's and a master's. And, you know, in order to do that, you have to write a lot of papers. And so when you're writing papers, you need to deal with references. And one of the great things about Microsoft Word here is that you can what you can do is, as you're doing your research, or as you're writing and citing or whatever, right? You can add references, and they come out in APA format. And then once you're all finished, well, this is a new machine. Obviously, I haven't got any. I haven't opened any of my old documents that I wrote for college, and of course, otherwise I would have a master list of references here, because every time you open one, it adds it to the master list. But anyway, point being, if you're going to write academic papers, you're going to have to deal with references. If you're going to write any kind of paper where you're going to use the work of others, you should also reference your work. And Microsoft Word just does that so much better than LibreOffice could ever dream of doing. So, you know, in the real world, we need Windows if we're going to do productive work. But, you know, we still enjoy playing with Linux, and I have other machines that I do not use for productive work. So I have some Linux distributions installed on them. So let's say you want to have a productive machine like I have here, but you also want to play with Linux now and then. So what are their options? The options are, well, you could try to dual boot. This computer, let me see here. If you look here in the file system, this PC, actually I want to go to disk management over here. So this PC uses EFI, which is, it's a secured booting system, and what it does is it kind of helps protect the system from somebody hacking the BIOS and having it run the virus when the computer gets turned on. So it's a secure thing, and that's wonderful. But it makes it very difficult to dual boot into Linux, it's not impossible. It can be done. A couple different things have to be done. You either have to find a way to register your hash code with the database, and then hopefully it'll take and it'll allow you to actually install that. I didn't have much luck trying with that. The other option was to disable UEFI in the BIOS, but then you're disabling a security feature. And Windows isn't exactly known for its robust security anyway. So, it's just not a good idea. The whole reason I have this laptop is so that when I have to go someplace and I'm going to be there waiting a while, I'll have something to work with or play with here. So, anyhow, what I decided to do so I could play around with some Linux was I went ahead and installed Virtualbox. Now this computer has 8 gigs of RAM and a quad-core processor that does support multi-threading. So you actually have 8 virtual cores available to the system. So out of 8 cores, you can easily spare a couple for a virtual machine. The virtual machine runs well and the host still runs well. So that seemed like the hot setup for this particular machine, was to use virtual software. So I'm using Oracle VM Virtualbox Manager, Virtualbox for short, and it's pretty neat. It's a free download. Just search for Virtualbox and you can find it. It wasn't what I meant to do. I meant to show Virtualbox is not limited to Windows operating systems, and it also is not limited to Linux operating systems. So you can actually install Linux, Solaris, BSD, IBM OS 2, Mac OS X, other. I'm not real sure what other would be, but that might be interesting to find out someday. As far as Windows goes, it would support all the way up from Windows 3.1 to the current generation, Windows 10. So what this allows you to do is actually run Linux in a window, and this is also kind of neat because when you dual boot, you have to, if you decide you want to use Linux for something, well, you have to shut the system down before you can go back to Windows. Whereas this way you can just basically come out of full screen and you have full access to your Windows host. So it's pretty handy. And I'll go ahead and demonstrate that with Ubuntu Mate here. So you just select the operating system you want to start and you click Start here. It starts a virtual machine. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the green, so I actually rethemed this thing with a really cool dark theme that I found. I like it. It's based on the latest version of Ubuntu. Uses the Mate desktop environment. It's kind of like a GNOME 2 style deal. You got your little drop downs over here for your applications. Let's say I really dig this dark theme. Anyway, and then your places over here, well, you can go to your folder, your desktop, recent documents. How about that? And then your system, then that's where all you do your administration tasks like install software, update software, things of that nature. Change the look and feel. So this welcome screen is probably one of the coolest parts as far as a new user would go. Yeah, I'd like you go ahead and click on introduction, and they go through and tell you all about Ubuntu Mate, and go through a little bit about Ubuntu and Mate desktop environment, a little explanation of open source. So, you know, if you're new to this, it's great. And then little feature view here, and you can go through some of the features that are included in this desktop or this operating system. Excuse me. So, and then you go ahead and get started here, and it'll take you through the steps you need to do after you've installed it. You know, updates. You know, do you want to install the updates? I've already done that. Well, you can install codecs so that you can play MP3s and such. Do you want to install DVD playback support? Well, it doesn't hardly make sense to do that in a virtual machine here like I've got. I can play DVDs on the host, so I didn't bother to install that. You can get additional screensavers and additional wallpapers, which I did install. So then you'll go to your drivers here, and you just go down through the list here. And I've already done it, but you install additional drivers, which would be the proprietary drivers for the hardware in your system. Next step, languages. Well, I only speak one language, so I only need English on here. So there's no need to worry about that. Then you go to optional tasks. And you got backups, you got network shares if you wanted to use this computer and share files over a network and all that. You can add users, configure users. Then you get into customization. You know, you got all this cool stuff you can do with it to make it, you know, your own personal space. And it walks you through the steps on how to do that. The other cool thing here, this is the software boutique that brings up eventually. But you notice it's pretty responsive, even though I'm running a screencaster on the host as well. And you know, it doesn't seem like it's dragging along. And the graphics seem snappy. I mean, so even as a virtual machine, it's working out great. Now, let's see. The software boutique is not a complete list of software, but it's some of the most popular software that people might install to play around with their system or whatever. You got all these different categories you can go through here, and it's pretty nice setup. This dark theme, if you don't know where things are, it's a little hard to find, and that's true of a lot of the dark themes on the top there. I just really wasn't a big fan of the green, so I'm liking this a lot better. So it comes out of the box with a lot of really nice software already installed. You know, a lot of things that if you're used to Windows, it wouldn't come with hardly any of this stuff. But, here's something that's interesting. So we'll go ahead and hit System Manager. We'll see what we're using here. Well, it's not all that lightweight. It's using 479 megabytes of memory right now. That's heavier than a couple more that I have on this system, but it's much lighter than what a Windows operating system would run. So and there's a little thing of the system here. It shows we're running 3 gigs of memory and two cores off of our processor on this machine right here. So I don't know, I like it. And this is the same operating system that I have installed on one of the media center PCs I've got set up here. And this just gives me a chance to get more familiar with it so that I can customize that one. And you know, if I have some spare time waiting for an oil change or waiting for tires to get rotated or whatever, I can sit here and become more familiar while I'm waiting. I can work at the coffee shop or whatever with the laptop, and that's handy. So see how that's still closing out there. That's done. Oh, by the way, this video, I'm shooting this video with a program that's available for Windows. I believe it's also available for Linux and I think the Mac. I'm not positive. It's called Open Broadcaster Software, OBS. So if you ever wanted to make some videos of things you do with your computer or whatever, then you can certainly do so by just getting the OBS and installing it. It's free download, free to use. So we'll minimize that to get it out of our way. So anyway, we're 400 and some odd megabytes on that other one. So this is Linux Lite here, and true to its namesake, it's going to be running quite a bit lighter than the Ubuntu Mate. So this is Linux Lite. This is also, it's the newest version of this one. It's pretty nice. Yeah. So let's see if we can find something that shows what kind of resources we're using. Settings, maybe? Settings manager. Workspaces. It's great for Windows crossovers. We're used to using Windows. Even the terminology is similar to Windows. Notice here, it's my computer. That's a Windows term, and this is very similar to. This menu is very similar to what you would find in XP. I actually like this menu. Let's see here if I can find it. Accessories. Yeah, we can do a terminal. And then just put top. So let's see what we got going here. Right now it's currently using 291 megabytes. So well under 300 megabytes being used right now. If you look up here, It's not using any swap. And then let me see here. Does it show processor? Yeah. Okay. And then here's your percentage of CPU usage right here. I'd hope to find something a little prettier, and I may still be able to, but for the purpose of moving on with the video, we'll just we'll just leave well enough alone. What does that mean in real world? It means that if you have an older piece of hardware, that this would make a great operating system for it, because it doesn't require a whole lot of resources to run. Let's say you have a good computer. You run this on it, you have more processing power for your applications, your games, what have you. So that's also a neat option. It does a lot of neat stuff. What I was surprised to find, this being a light operating system, is that if you go to Office, it actually has LibreOffice 5 on it. And that is not necessarily light software, but it's definitely full featured. So, you've got full Office suite. So right out of the box, this is a very complete operating system, and it includes the Firefox web browser. And so there you go. And another really cool feature about this Linux Lite is this help manual. This help manual is actually written in HTML rather than to be in a PDF or document format. And what's cool about that is you get all the interactivity that would come with any website, modern website. You get all these cool animations that come over, letting you know where you're mousing. And that's pretty cool. So let's say you want to know, alright, how would I get you some light software to install on this thing? So you click right over here, and it takes you to the light software installation process and runs you through the steps. So it's like, if you're new to this, I think just about anybody could pick this up very, very quickly. I mean, it's really is a great way to jump off and get started with Linux. Yeah, we'll go and close these tabs. So it even shuts down similarly. You press the old menu button, which would be similar to the start, and shut it down. So we looked at those two, and then I had this other one on here as well. Now, Linux Lite, I was planning to kind of evaluate it, use it, get familiar with it, and see if it'd be appropriate for a couple of old laptops that I gave to my grandsons. This Pearl is similar to what I'm running on my living room media center. So, this allows me to experiment with different things with this and see if they'd be appropriate for implementation on the big machine in the living room. So this Pearl is a nice polished operating system. The thing with Linux operating systems is you have to find the one that works with the hardware you have to use. I got one media center that I run in the living room. It's got an AMD quad-core processor and ATI graphics on the board and 8 gigs RAM, and it runs Pearl beautifully. and I was able to install a Google Chrome. We can watch Netflix on it, all kinds of cool stuff. So I had this other older machine, and it had the Intel graphics on the board and a Core 2 Duo processor. Well, you get to installing that, and as soon as you try to start Google Chrome, it would crash the operating system, get a black screen. So, you know, not everything that's going to work great on one machine will work great on another. But that's what's great about Linux, is you got lots of choices, so you can find something different. So this is Perl, and like I say, man, it's really cool operating system. Now, oddly enough, this was not touted as a light operating system. Let's see if we can find something here. System tools, system monitor. Now, this is what I was looking for. This is what I was actually looking for in the other operating system. Let's see what this thing's running at here. Yeah, resources. So we're using 5% and 10%. But look at how much memory it's using. 464 megabytes. That's no big deal, because this virtual machine's got over 3 gigs. And, you know, it's not hurting for any resources whatsoever. Anyway. But one little quirky thing that I've noticed in running this in the virtual machine is I don't have any buttons at the top to close the windows, and I can't seem to move most windows around, so that's a little freaky. You know, I can live with it. It's not ideal, but I can live with it in this instance because it's just for basically testing different things. So what's interesting that with this not being a light distro is that it didn't come with the LibreOffice suite like so many do. This actually came with Abbey Word. And so, yeah, it's got the wobbly windows. This is the only one I've actually been able to launch and move things around with, is the Abbey Word. Yet still I got no buttons at the top. So that's some of the limitations you're going to find using your operating systems in a virtual environment. And as I've shown already, some work better than others. Some are full-featured and some you lose a few things. But this Abbey Word seems like a pretty nice little word processor. It doesn't have anything fancy, and maybe it'd be easier for some people to use. It doesn't have as many features to figure out what they do. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, so we can just... Another thing it has is that magic lamp effect when you minimize or restore a window. So that's just some of the eye candy built in that comes already configured. And you can always add that through Compiz to just about any of them, assuming that your machine has the hardware to do it. But this is Perl Linux, Perl OS, I believe it's called, and it is based on Ubuntu. Let's see if we go over here. Let me go to details. It doesn't even say that it is. Doesn't even, well, it doesn't even tell you that it's Perl. It just says Ubuntu 14.04. So, yeah, there you have it. So we're going to close this, and then we'll have a look at the Manjaro. Now this here, this MCOL is Manjaro Cup of Linux Edition. This is based on Arch. But before we get going here, let me just, I don't think, oh yeah, it's right here. It says here Arch things. So I did get that set up right. Okay. So we'll go ahead and start it. And this is, unlike all the others, is not an Ubuntu derivative. In other words, they didn't start with an Ubuntu operating system and then just add a different desktop environment and whether it be light software or whatever else. This here is based on Arch. You see, even though this running, I still have full access to my Windows host machine. Like if I wanted to, for some crazy reason, I could start playing a game of solitaire, or I could go on the internet or any of the above, because I've had full access to my Windows machine, even as the other machine is running. So anyway, we'll go ahead and go full screen on it so that we can have a look at MCOL. Alright, so MCOL. That is Manjaro Cup of Linux Edition. It comes with the Chromium web browser installed. So this is a spin of, it's an unofficial release of Manjaro, and what it is basically themed out the way this guy right here in this picture, Spatry, the way he had his set up. He received a lot of requests for him to kind of show people or share how he could theme his desktop up. So he actually released his own themed up release of the Manjaro. So this is Manjaro. It comes in a lot of different flavors, of course, with different desktops and different theming and whatnot already set up. But pretty much you're looking at that green theme there, with the green and all that. And Spatry has his all blacked out. And I'll show you some of the other things he customized with his little spin on this. Now, see, this has the full LibreOffice right here. This one has a full LibreOffice suite. There's a drop-down terminal, and that drops down, and the way he's got it set up here, and he's got Tux swatting the old Windows butterfly over here, and then he's got Tux over here, and he's got this really cool little deal here that shows all of the specs or whatever, details of your system. And it shows we're using our Pentium CPU, and it's running right now at only 314 megabytes. So a little heavier than Linux Lite, but considerably lighter than the other two we looked at. So anyway, it comes with this media player that I've never actually used. It's called, I'm not real sure what it's called, Gaiadeki? I guess that's how I would try to pronounce it, Gaiadeki. Yeah, it looks pretty neat. I've never actually used it. And the reason I have never actually used it is, oh, darn it, I'm not full screen. Let me go full screen on the operating system. Then I quit closing things I don't mean to close. So if you go over here, I've actually installed Clementine, and that's the one I'm familiar with using. See, there we go. Clementine's pretty neat in that it has a lot of neat features. It'll scan your library. It'll do a lot of cool things. But my favorite thing that it does is that it actually offers visualizations. Now we're not playing anything, so of course nothing's moving around much. But it does offer visualizations. So, it's about as close as you're going to find in the Linux world to the Windows Media Player. And I use that one. So anyway, this is MCOL, and this is basically this is my setup I got going here, so I can make use of this machine. So I got the best of both worlds. I have full access to my Windows machine, even as I use my Linux, and I have a wide variety of Linux operating systems to play around with at my leisure. Anywho, pretty much is it for this video. Thanks for watching.